And at my 76th birthday dinner, my son-in-law stood in my dining room and told everyone my granddaughter would lose her college spot in 48 hours unless I gave him $45,000 that night. And then he looked at me in front of my whole family and said, "Dad, you can either help her future tonight or explain why Grandpa let her dream die." He did not know I had already called the admissions office. And is Henry Callahan. I am 76 years old, and for 49 years I was married to a woman named Margaret who believed education was the cleanest way to open a locked door. We lived in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, in a white house with green shutters and a front porch. Margaret filled with hanging ferns every spring. She taught 4th grade for 32 years. I worked as a postal supervisor, first sorting mail before sunrise, then managing routes, trucks, schedules, and complaints from people who thought a late birthday card was a federal emergency. Margaret loved children before they knew how to love themselves. She kept extra pencils in her desk, granola bars in her bottom drawer, and clean sweatshirts in a plastic bin for kids who came to school cold. She remembered which students needed glasses, which ones needed quiet, and which ones were angry only because no adult had listened to them before breakfast. She used to say a child's future could be damaged by one careless adult or saved by one patient one. That sentence shaped our life. We had one daughter, Laura. She was bright and stubborn and tender, in the way people are tender when they try hard not to be. Margaret helped her with homework at the kitchen table while I made sandwiches for the next day. We saved for Laura's college before we replaced our furnace. We drove old cars, skipped vacations, and bought school clothes on clearance when Laura graduated from Temple University. Margaret cried so hard her mascara ran down both cheeks, and she kept saying that every extra shift had been worth it. Laura married a man named Travis Miller. Travis was smooth, and that was the word that came to me early and never left. Smooth handshake, smooth apologies, smooth excuses, smooth way of entering a room and making himself sound like the only person with a plan. He worked in sales, then real estate, then consulting, then something he called private investment advisory. Though I never saw him advise anyone successfully except himself. Margaret did not trust him fully, but she loved Laura enough to remain kind. When their daughter, Olivia, was born, Margaret became the happiest version of herself. She bought board books before Olivia could hold her head up. She opened a small savings account the week after the baby came home. She called it the Little Lantern Fund because she said children did not need adults to walk the whole path for them, but they did need a light at the start. Olivia grew into a serious, observant girl with Margaret's eyes and my habit of asking too many questions. She loved science fairs, old maps, and drawing tiny cities in the margins of her notebooks. By the time she was 16, she wanted to study architecture. Margaret took that dream as if Olivia had placed a candle in her hands. She bought her books about Frank Lloyd Wright and Maya Lin. She clipped articles about scholarships. She told me we needed to protect the college fund because someday someone would try to call it optional. I laughed when she said that. I should not have. Margaret got sick during Olivia's junior year of high school. At first, she hid the pain. Teachers are experts at hiding pain because classrooms do not pause for weakness. Then came appointments, specialists, surgery, treatment, and the slow rearranging of our home around illness. I learned how to cook soft foods. I learned how to read medication labels under kitchen light. I learned that love after 70 is not always grand romance. Sometimes it is helping your wife put on socks while pretending not to see tears in her eyes. Olivia visited often. She sat beside Margaret's bed and showed her college brochures. Margaret would touch the pages like they were sacred. Even when she was exhausted, she asked about application deadlines, essays, portfolio pieces, and scholarships. She made me promise that if she did not live to see Olivia choose a school, I would help the girl carefully, not emotionally carefully. That was Margaret's word. She died in February, 2 months before Olivia's final college decisions came in. After the funeral, I became a man living inside echoes. Margaret's mug by the sink, and Margaret's sweater on the bedroom chair. Margaret's red pen in a drawer full of thank you notes from former students. The house still looked full, but every room had lost its center. And Travis started visiting more after that. He brought coffee I did not ask for. He asked about accounts. He asked about Margaret's life insurance. He asked whether the Little Lantern Fund was in Olivia's name or mine. And he said college costs were brutal now. He said timing mattered. He said families who waited lost opportunities. I thought he was finally taking Olivia's future seriously. That was my mistake. And Travis had not come to protect Olivia's dream. He had come to find out how much money that dream could unlock. The first strange sign was the college sweatshirt. Travis brought it to my house one Sunday afternoon and folded in a glossy shopping bag with tissue paper around it. The sweatshirt was navy blue with the name Kingsley Institute of Design printed across the chest in silver letters. And Olivia held it against herself and looked at me with the kind of hope that makes old men forget every warning they have ever heard. Kingsley was a private design school in Boston, and expensive, prestigious, the kind of place that made brochures look like invitations to a better life. Olivia had talked about it for months, though she also knew it was a reach. And Margaret had called it a dream school, then immediately told her dreams still needed spreadsheets. Travis said Olivia had been practically accepted. Practically, that word bothered me. And Laura smiled nervously when he said it. Olivia did not notice. She was too busy looking at the sweatshirt. I asked if the acceptance letter had arrived. Travis said not officially, but his contact in admissions had given him a strong indication. He said the family needed to be ready to move quickly. He said elite schools did not wait around for slow grandparents and sentimental paperwork. And slow grandparents. I let that pass because Olivia was in the room. Then he began talking about deposits, not normal deposits, serious deposits, priority enrollment deposits, housing holds, and portfolio review fees, design lab access fees, early professional placement fees. Every phrase sounded official enough to confuse someone who had not paid college bills in decades. I asked Lara whether she had seen the financial aid package. She looked at Travis. He answered for her. He said aid would come later. He said first they had to secure the spot. He said if they hesitated, Olivia could lose priority to another student. He said that was how competitive programs worked. Maybe that was true somewhere. But Margaret had spent 32 years teaching children whose parents were intimidated by forms. She taught me the cure for intimidation was simple. Ask for the paper. So I asked for the paper, and Travis said everything was online. After that, the signs grew. He started sending me links to articles about college costs. He sent a chart showing how tuition had risen faster than inflation. He sent a video of Olivia presenting her architecture portfolio at school, then wrote that talent like this could not be wasted because older generations were too cautious. He asked whether the Little Lantern Fund could be accessed quickly. I told him the fund had rules. He asked who made the rules. I said Margaret did. That ended the conversation for 6 hours. Then he texted again saying Margaret would have wanted flexibility. People love speaking for the dead when the dead cannot correct them. Laura became quieter. Whenever college came up, she smiled with her mouth but not her eyes. She told me Travis was handling the complicated parts because he understood modern admissions. She said he had connections. She said he knew how to make things happen. I asked if she had logged into Olivia's application portal herself. She said Travis had the password. That answer sat badly in my chest. A week before my birthday dinner, Travis called and asked if I wanted to make the birthday gathering meaningful. He said we could combine it with a celebration of Olivia's future. He said she deserved to feel supported. He said Margaret's absence had been hard on everyone, and maybe this would give the family something hopeful to gather around. That part was clever. Hope is easier to misuse than grief because people do not recognize it as a weapon. I agreed to the dinner. Laura would bring lasagna. My sister Patricia would bring salad. My brother Frank would bring wine, though I told him nobody needed that much wine at a family birthday. Olivia would bring her portfolio. Travis said he had a surprise announcement. The day before the dinner, I received an email forwarded from Travis. It appeared to come from Kingsley Institute of Design. The subject line said, "Urgent enrollment, hold notice." The email stated that Olivia Miller's conditional seat in the fall architecture design cohort required a $45,000 priority commitment within 48 hours, or her placement could be released to the waitlist. I read it 3 times. Then I noticed the address Admissions Kingsley Institute, org, the official school website. Printed at the bottom of the email was Kingsley Edu. That may sound small. It was not small to Margaret. She had taught children to check sources before trusting anything with a logo. I did not reply to Travis. I called Kingsley directly. The first woman who answered transferred me, and the second transferred me again. The third, a registrar's assistant named Denise Walker, listened carefully when I explained that I was Olivia Miller's grandfather, and that I was concerned about a possible urgent payment notice. She could not tell me private details without permission. I understood that, but she could tell me one thing. Kingsley did not require 45,000 priority commitment payments within 48 hours. They did not use the email domain in the message. They did not send conditional seat threats to families, and no admissions officer was named in the signature Travis had forwarded. I thanked her and hung up. Then I sat at the kitchen table, staring at Margaret's empty chair. Travis was planning something for my birthday dinner, and this time I would not come unprepared. My birthday dinner began with candles and ended with a lie large enough to fill the room. Laura arrived early with lasagna and a covered dish and circles under her eyes. She kissed my cheek and said happy birthday like she was asking forgiveness. Olivia followed her, carrying a black portfolio case almost as tall as she was. She wore the Kingsley sweatshirt Travis had bought her. That nearly undid me. The girl believed she was wearing her future. Travis came in last. talking on his phone in the hallway as if negotiating something important. He ended the call just loudly enough for everyone to hear him say that he would handle the funding by Monday. And then he walked into my dining room with the grave expression of a man carrying bad news he had rehearsed. The table looked like Margaret should have been there. I had used her blue plates. And Patricia brought flowers. Frank placed the wine where Margaret would have moved it because she never liked bottles near children. Olivia put her portfolio on the sideboard and showed me a model she had made from cardboard, and thread, and tiny strips of wood. It was a library design with open courtyards and reading rooms full of light. Margaret would have loved it. I told Olivia that her eyes filled, and for a while the evening was gentle. They sang Happy Birthday. I blew out candles on a lemon cake Patricia had made from Margaret's recipe. Frank told a story about me getting locked inside a mail truck in 1987, and Patricia corrected him 3 times. Olivia laughed. Laura relaxed for almost 15 minutes. Then Travis stood. He tapped his spoon against his glass. The sound seemed too sharp. He began by saying birthdays were about family. But family was not only about celebrating the past, it was about investing in the future. He spoke about Margaret. He said she had believed in education. And he said she had believed in Olivia. He said nothing would honor her more than making sure Olivia did not lose the opportunity she had worked so hard to earn. Laura's face went pale, and Olivia looked confused. I sat still. Travis took a folded paper from his jacket and held it up. He said Kingsley had moved faster than expected. He said Olivia had been selected for a priority seat in their architecture design cohort. He said the family had 48 hours to secure it. He said the cost was high, but that was how serious institutions separated committed families from uncertain ones. Committed families, uncertain ones. I watched him build the wall. Then he said the amount, $45,000. The room inhaled. Olivia whispered that she did not know. Travis turned to her with a soft face and said he had not wanted to worry her until he had tried every option. He said he had called banks, lenders, scholarship offices, alumni contacts, and financial aid departments. He said he had carried this alone because that was what fathers did. That was when I saw Laura close her eyes. She knew something was wrong, but she did not know where the lie ended and the fear began. And Travis turned toward me. He said the little lantern fund had enough. He said the money was set aside for Olivia. He said waiting could cost her everything. He said Margaret would have written the check already. And there it was again. Margaret used as a signature by someone she would not have trusted with a pencil. I asked if Olivia had received a formal acceptance. Travis said this was how formal acceptance worked now. I asked if the school had sent a financial aid package. He said aid came after commitment. I asked why the email domain did not match Kingsley's official website. His face tightened. Then he smiled as if I had asked a childish question. He said elite institutions had different departments and payment processors. He said this was exactly why older people should not manage modern education decisions alone. Patricia looked at him sharply. Frank shifted in his chair. Travis saw the room beginning to tilt, so he struck harder. He looked straight at me and said, "Dad, you can either help her future tonight or explain why Grandpa let her dream die." Olivia began to cry. That is the part I will never forgive him for. He made a child watch her dream placed on a table like a hostage. Every eye turned to me. My birthday candle still smoked on the cake. Margaret's blue plates sat beneath half-finished slices. My granddaughter stood in a sweatshirt from a school that had not yet accepted her, crying because a grown man had decided fear was a useful tool. And for one moment I wanted to end it quickly. Write the check, stop the tears, protect Olivia from embarrassment. But Margaret's voice rose in memory. Carefully, Henry. Help carefully. So I folded my hands and said, I would not release $45,000 without speaking directly to the school. Travis laughed once, not loudly, just enough to make me look small. He said by the time I finished playing detective, Olivia's spot would be gone. I looked at my granddaughter, then I looked at my daughter, then I looked at Travis. I told him no dream worth having should depend on a wire transfer no one can verify. And the room went silent. Travis said I was making a mistake. I said maybe, but I would make it with the phone on speaker. I did not call Kingsley in that moment. That surprised Travis. I could see it in his face. He expected either surrender or confrontation. He did not expect delay. Delay is dangerous to liars because it gives truth time to gather its coat. I told Olivia we would talk more after dinner. I told her none of this was her fault. Then I asked everyone to finish eating because Margaret had never tolerated food waste, and I was not about to let Travis ruin Patricia's lasagna. It was a strange thing to say, but it steadied the room. People ate slowly. Olivia wiped her eyes and stared at her plate. Laura barely touched hers. Patricia watched Travis like a hawk with lipstick. And Frank drank water instead of wine, which told me he was more serious than he looked. Travis sat back down, angry under the skin. He kept checking his phone. He sent messages beneath the table. And once he leaned toward Laura and whispered something that made her flinch. I noticed. I said nothing. After everyone left, I sat alone in the dining room. Margaret's plates were stacked by the sink. The lemon cake had a knife resting beside it. The candles had burned down into little curls of wax. I looked at Olivia's portfolio, which she had accidentally left behind, and I felt a sadness so sharp it almost became rage. Her drawings were still inside. Libraries, courtyards, community centers, a school built around a garden. Every page showed a young woman trying to imagine spaces where people could feel safe. And Travis had used that dream as bait. I opened my notebook and began listing facts. Kingsley email domain suspicious, no verified acceptance, no financial aid package, 45,000 demanded in 48 hours. And Travis controlled portal login. Laura afraid. Olivia uninformed. Little Lantern Fund targeted Margaret invoked repeatedly. Possible fake payment processor. Then I called Dees Walker again the next morning. And this time, Olivia sat beside me. I had asked Laura to bring her over while Travis was at the gym. Laura looked like she had not slept. Olivia looked embarrassed, which broke my heart because shame belonged nowhere near her. And Denise explained what she could after Olivia verified her identity. Kingsley had received Olivia's application. It was under review. No final decision had been issued. No priority seat had been granted. And no 45,000 payment was due. The school's real enrollment deposit, if Olivia were accepted, would be far lower and due weeks later through the official student portal. Denise also confirmed that the email Travis forwarded did not come from Kingsley. Olivia sat very still. Then she asked if that meant she had not gotten in. Denise's voice softened. She said it meant no final decision had been made yet. She said Olivia's application was real, and her portfolio had been received, and she should watch the official portal for updates. She said no legitimate school should pressure a family into a large urgent payment through an email link. And Olivia nodded. Then she began crying silently. Laura put her arm around her. I wanted to promise everything would be fine. Old men love promises because they make us feel useful. But Margaret had taught me not to comfort children with lies, so I told Olivia the truth. I said her dream was still alive. It had just been used by someone who should have protected it. After they left, I checked the email Travis had forwarded. I clicked nothing. I copied headers and sent everything to my attorney, Samuel Green, who had helped Margaret and me set up the Little Lantern Fund. Samuel had silver hair, a dry voice, and a habit of sounding bored right before he became dangerous. He told me to preserve the email, forward copies, and not speak to Travis about what I had learned. Then he asked if Travis had ever requested access to the college fund. I said yes. Samuel went quiet. That was never a good sign. By late afternoon, Samuel had reviewed the fund documents. The Little Lantern Fund was not a casual savings account. Margaret had made sure of that. It was a custodial education trust with restrictions. Money could be paid directly to accredited institutions. Approved housing, required educational expenses, or reimbursed with documentation. It could not be transferred to parents. It could not be wired to third-party payment links without trustee approval. I was trustee if I died or became unable. Samuel's firm would appoint a successor. Margaret had built a locked door around Olivia's future. Travis was trying to find a window. The next day, Samuel called with more. The suspicious email linked to a payment portal that was not Kingsley. The domain had been registered 3 weeks earlier. The registrant information was hidden, but the payment page routed to a business entity called KDM Education Solutions C. KDM Catherine Design Miller, Kingsley Deposit Management. It sounded official enough to fool a frightened family, and Samuel said he would keep digging. I did not know then that KDM stood for something much simpler. Catherine Deanne Miller, Travis' sister. The hidden truth arrived in pieces, and each piece made the previous one uglier. Samuel discovered that KDM Education Solutions LLC had been created in Delaware less than a month earlier. The registered agent was a commercial filing service. The business description was vague. Educational consulting and family advancement services. The mailing address traced back to a virtual office. The bank account connected to its payment portal had received only 2 test deposits and 1 larger transfer from an account linked to Travis' private business. Then Samuel found Catherine Diane Miller. Travis' older sister lived in New Jersey. She ran a failing online tutoring business that had once been legitimate but had collapsed under bad reviews and unpaid contractor complaints. Her middle initial and last name matched KDM. She had created the LOC, but Samuel believed Travis was the one using it. He told me not to assume without proof, so we gathered proof. Olivia gave us access to the application portal, the real portal. Her password had been changed twice in the past month from an IP address near Travis's office. Her application had been submitted, but several fields had been edited after Laura and Olivia thought it was finished. The parent contact email had been changed from Laura S. address to one controlled by Travis. The financial aid correspondence had also been redirected, and that explained why Laura had not seen anything directly. Travis had placed himself between his daughter and the truth. Denise at Kingsley connected Olivia with a student services security officer. They confirmed the application was under review and flagged the account for suspicious activity. They restored Laura's email as the primary parent contact and removed the unauthorized address. They could not accuse Travis, but they documented the access history. Documentation. Margaret would have approved. Then Laura found the credit card statements. They were in a file box Travis kept in the garage beneath old tax returns. Charges showed trips to Atlantic City, luxury watch payments, hotel stays in Philadelphia on nights he told Laura he was meeting clients, and large transfers to something called Harborline Ventures. Another folder showed a failed investment in a student housing development near a different university. Travis had lost money trying to buy into a private rental project that never received zoning approval. The debt was not Olivia's. The urgency was not Kingsley's. The $45,000 was for Travis. More specifically, it was for an overdue capital call tied to Harborline Ventures, and plus personal debts he had hidden behind phrases like family advancement and educational opportunity. Samuel arranged a meeting at his office. Laura came. Olivia came because she insisted. I nearly said no, but she was 17, old enough to be harmed by lies, and therefore old enough to hear the truth told gently. Denise from Kingsley joined by video call. Samuel had also invited a forensic accountant named Mira Patel, who specialized in tracing small business fraud. Mira laid the documents out in a way even grief could understand. The fake Kingsley email had been sent from a domain purchased by Catherine Miller, and the payment portal routed to KDM Education Solutions. KDM had no relationship with Kingsley. Travis had emailed Catherine asking whether the page could look more institutional, and Catherine replied that it would pass if nobody called the school. That line sat in the room like smoke if nobody called the school. Travis had counted on panic. He had counted on family pressure. He had counted on me being too old to check a domain. He had counted on Olivia crying before anyone asked a second question. Samuel then showed us one more document, a draft email Travis had never sent, and saved in the family laptop. It was addressed to me, written as if from Olivia in it. She begged me to help before her dream disappeared. It said, "Grandpa, please do not let money be the reason I lose everything Grandma believed in." Olivia stood up and walked out of the room. Lara followed her. I remained seated because if I stood I might have fallen. Using Margaret's name was one thing, using Olivia's voice was another. Samuel closed the folder and said we had enough to confront Travis, pursue civil claims, notify law enforcement, and protect the Little Lantern Fund permanently from parental interference. I asked whether Olivia's application would be damaged. Denise said no. Kingsley would not penalize a student for a family member's misconduct. She also said Olivia's portfolio was strong. That was the first kind sentence in the room. When Laura and Olivia came back, Olivia's face was pale but different. Less frightened, more awake. Betrayal does that when truth finally arrives. It hurts, but it also gives the victim the floor beneath their feet. Laura asked what we should do next. Samuel looked at me. I looked at Olivia. Then I said Travis liked family dinners, so we would give him one more. Travis escalated because he sensed control slipping but did not know how much we knew. He called me twice the day after Samuel's meeting. I did not answer. He texted that the deadline was moving fast. He sent another copy of the fake Kingsley. Notice this time with a warning highlighted in yellow. He wrote that if I delayed any longer, Olivia would remember it for the rest of her life. He was right about that, just not the way he meant it. Then he called Patricia. He told her I was being stubborn with the college fund. He said Margaret had saved that money for Olivia, not for me to guard like a dragon. He said he worried grief had made me controlling. He said Olivia was devastated. He said Laura was too afraid of disappointing me to push harder. Patricia called me immediately. She did not ask if it was true. She asked what documents I needed her to bring to the next dinner. That is why I love my sister Frank on the other hand, and nearly fell for it. Travis sent him the fake email and told him the family needed to unite before it was too late. Frank called me and said maybe I could pay the school directly and sort everything out later. And I told him there was no school payment. He went quiet. Then he said he would be at the next dinner. Laura held steady, but barely. And living with a liar. After you know the truth is like walking through your own house after finding a snake under the couch. Every room looks the same. Nothing feels safe. Travis became sweet with her, and that was worse than anger. He brought flowers. He made breakfast. He told Olivia he was proud of her. He talked about Boston as if everything were settled. He said they should plan a campus visit, and he asked Laura if her father had come around yet. Laura said she was still working on me. He believed her because arrogance is a blindfold people tie themselves. Then he made the mistake that completed everything. And he sent Laura a message meant for Catherine. It read he's wobbling. Dinner should close him. Have KDM ready to invoice the second he agrees. Use enrollment protection fee, not donation. And sounds more official. Laura stared at the message for a long time. Then she forwarded it to Samuel, to me, and to herself at a new email address Travis did not know about that night. And Travis announced a family dinner. For Sunday, he said it should be at my house because that was where Margaret would want the family to come together. He told Olivia to bring her portfolio and the Kingsley sweatshirt. He told Laura to make sure I had my checkbook. He told Patricia and Frank that there would be good news if everyone acted with love instead of fear. Love instead of fear. Manipulators love dressing fear in the clothes of virtue. I prepared carefully. Samuel would come. Mira Patel would come. Denise Walker from Kingsley agreed to join by video call at the right moment, with written confirmation already sent to Samuel. Patricia would bring copies of the fake email printed in color. Frank would bring a level head, or at least the closest thing he had to one. Laura would bring Olivia only if Olivia wanted to be there. Olivia insisted. I told her she did not have to witness this. She said it was her future he had used. She wanted to hear him answer for it. I thought of Margaret then. Margaret, and who believed children should be protected, but not by being kept blind. Margaret, who taught students to raise their hands even when their voices shook. So I said yes before the dinner. I went into Margaret's room. I still called it that, though it had been our room for nearly 50 years. Her red cardigan was folded on the chair. Her reading lamp still leaned slightly to the left. On the dresser sat a photograph of her and Olivia at a school art fair, both of them holding a cardboard model of a tiny house. I touched the frame. Then I opened the drawer where Margaret kept old letters. Inside was a note she had written to me when we created the Little Lantern Fund. I had read it once before, but not since she died. Henry, if Olivia ever needs this money, give it with joy, but never give it in panic. Panic is where careless people hide their hands. Pay schools directly. Ask questions. Protect the girl from anyone who uses her dreams to open your wallet. I sat on the edge of the bed and let the words settle. Margaret had seen the shape of the danger before it had a name. That evening, I placed her note in my jacket pocket. Then I set the dining room table for the last performance Travis would ever give in my house. Sunday dinner smelled like roast chicken, garlic potatoes, and the kind of tension no candle can soften. And Travis arrived wearing a navy blazer and the expression of a man who believed he was about to win. Laura came beside him, quiet but steady. Olivia followed in the Kingsley sweatshirt, carrying her portfolio case. When she looked at me, I saw fear in her eyes, but also something stronger beneath it. Patricia and Frank were already there. Samuel Green stood near the sideboard with a folder, and Mira Patel sat at the far end of the table, introduced simply as a financial consultant. Travis noticed them and smiled too slowly. He asked if this was an intervention. I said it was a family dinner, and exactly like he wanted. For the first 20 minutes, we ate with the careful politeness of people waiting for thunder. Travis talked about college housing costs. He mentioned Boston rent, and he praised Olivia's talent. He said Margaret would be smiling down on this family if we could all come together and do the right thing. Olivia looked at her plate. Laura reached under the table and held her hand. And then Travis stood, again with the glass, again with the spoon, again with the room becoming his stage. He thanked everyone for coming. He said the last few weeks had been emotional. And he said misunderstandings had created unnecessary tension. He said Olivia's future was too important for pride, suspicion, or old-fashioned thinking. Then he placed the fake Kingsley notice on the table. And he said the deadline was real. He said the amount was real. He said if the family did not act tonight, they could not blame him for what happened next. Then he turned to me and said, I had always claimed to love Olivia like my own second daughter. And he said now was the time to prove it. I waited until he finished. Then I took out my phone and placed it in the center of the table. I said I agreed that proof mattered. Then I called Denise Walker, and the phone rang twice. Samuel connected the video call to my tablet, and Denise's face appeared on the screen from her office at Kingsley Institute of Design. Travis went still and introduced Denise to the family. Then I asked her to explain in general terms and with Olivia's permission whether Kingsley had issued the urgent notice demanding $45,000 in 48 hours to hold Olivia's seat. And Denise said no, one word, clean as a blade. She explained that Olivia's application was still under review at the time the email was sent. She explained that Kingsley had no such priority commitment fee, and no such department, no such payment deadline, and no relationship with the payment portal linked in the email. She explained that official enrollment deposits were handled only through the secure student portal after formal admission. And Travis said admissions offices make exceptions. Denise said not through fake domains. Patricia exhaled loudly. Frank muttered something that sounded like finally. Samuel then placed the domain registration records on the table, and he showed the fake email address. He showed the payment portal. He showed KDM Education Solutions C. He showed the connection to Catherine Diane Miller. Travis said his sister helped with educational consulting. And Mira Patel opened her folder. She said KDM Education Solutions had no contract with Kingsley, no license to collect education funds, no verified school partnerships, and no operating history beyond the last month. She traced the payment setup to an account that had received test transfers from Travis' business. She then placed the message Laura received on the table. He is wobbling, dinner should close him. Have KDM ready to invoice the second he agrees. Nobody moved. Then Mira read the next line. Use enrollment protection fee, not donation. Sounds more official. Laura covered her mouth. Olivia stared at her father like she was seeing a stranger wear his skin. Travis said that message was taken out of context. Samuel asked him what context made fake college invoices acceptable, and Travis had no answer. Then Samuel brought out the draft email written as if from Olivia. He did not read all of it. He only read the line using Margaret's name. Grandpa, please do not let money be the reason I lose everything Grandma believed in. That was when Olivia stood. Her voice shook, but she did not sit down. She said she had never written that. She said she would never use Grandma that way. The room cracked open, not with noise, with recognition. Everyone finally understood that Travis had not only lied about money, he had tried to steal Olivia's voice, Margaret's memory, Laura's trust, and my grief all at once. Travis turned to Laura. He told her he had done everything for the family. He said he was under pressure. He said I had made him desperate by acting like a gatekeeper. He said Olivia's future was expensive and somebody had to be practical. Laura stood slowly. She said practical does not mean fraudulent. I had never been prouder of her. Then Travis looked at me, anger finally showing without polish. He said, I enjoyed humiliating him. I said no. I said I had enjoyed very little since Margaret died. Then I reached into my jacket and unfolded Margaret's note. My hands trembled slightly, but my voice did not. I read the final line, protect the girl from anyone who uses her dreams to open your wallet. Olivia began to cry. This time her tears did not belong to Travis. Samuel explained the consequences. The Little Lantern Fund would remain locked. No funds would be released except directly to verified schools or approved educational expenses. And Travis would be barred from communicating with the trust, the attorney, or any institution on Olivia's behalf without Laura and Olivia's written consent. Kingsley had flagged the account for unauthorized access, and evidence would be preserved for possible fraud claims. Catherine Miller would receive notice regarding KDM's involvement if Travis attempted further pressure or misuse of Olivia's application, and Samuel would proceed immediately. Travis said family did not sue family. I looked at him, then I said family does not forge a child's future into an invoice that ended the dinner. And not with shouting. Not with slammed doors, with Travis standing alone beside the table where he had expected to collect $45,000, surrounded by the papers that proved he was never protecting Olivia's dream, and he was selling it. The price came quietly at first. Travis moved out within a week, though he told people he was staying with a friend to give Laura space. That was the public version. And the truth was Laura had changed the locks after Samuel and her own attorney advised her to secure documents, devices, and Olivia's application records. She froze joint credit. She opened a new bank account. She removed Travis from school communications. She changed every password connected to Olivia's college applications. That last one made Olivia smile for the first time in days. A small smile, but real. Samuel sent preservation notices to Travis and Catherine. KDM Education Solutions took down its payment page within 24 hours, which Samuel said was not proof of innocence. It was proof they knew enough to be afraid. Denise at Kingsley helped Olivia secure her account. The school documented the fake notice and assured her again that her application would be reviewed on its merits, and not on her father's misconduct. That mattered more than I can say. Olivia had begun to believe her dream was contaminated. We had to keep reminding her. It was not dreams do not become dirty because someone else tries to sell them. And the financial trail became worse. Mira Patel traced Travis' urgency to debts from Harborline Ventures and a personal line of credit he had hidden from Laura. He had used phrases like education planning and family advancement to move money between accounts. He had tried to create a story where paying him looked like paying for Olivia. And he had also approached two other relatives for smaller amounts, claiming they were helping cover application consulting fees. Patricia found out she had nearly sent him $5,000. And that made her furious in a way I had not seen since 1976, when Frank sold her car without telling her. Catherine tried to blame Travis. Travis tried to blame Catherine. Both claimed they thought the other had handled the details, and Samuel called it the circle of cowards. Officially, he said liability would be determined by the documents. Laura filed for separation, not immediately divorce. She needed time. And I understood that when you discover someone has lied so deeply, your heart still has to catch up with your mind. She moved slowly but firmly. That was enough. Travis called me once. I answered because I wanted to hear what kind of apology a man gives after using his own daughter's dream as a trap. He said he had made a terrible error in judgment. I said no. He said he had been trying to secure Olivia's future. I said no. He said if I cut him off completely, I would punish Laura and Olivia too. I said the only money he would ever see from me again would be in a court order requiring him to repay someone else. Then I hung up. Olivia's relationship with him changed painfully. She stopped answering his long texts. She agreed to meet him only in public with Laura present. He tried to bring up college. She told him he had lost the right to speak about her future until he could tell the truth about what he had done to it. That sentence came from her, not from any of us. Margaret would have written it on the board and underlined it twice. The family apologized to me in different ways. Frank brought over a toolbox and fixed my loose porch railing without saying much. That was his apology. Patricia sat with me in Margaret's garden and cried because she had almost let Travis turn her against me. That was hers. Laura apologized more than she needed to. I told her fear makes people trust the loudest person in the room sometimes. What matters is what they do when truth speaks. Laura did the hard thing that mattered. Months later, Kingsley sent Olivia its decision. She was waitlisted. Not accepted, not rejected, waitlisted. For a day the house felt heavy again. Olivia tried to be brave, but I saw disappointment settle on her shoulders. And Travis, when he heard through someone else, sent a message saying, "None of this would have happened if I had handled things differently." Laura deleted it. That was progress then. In May, another letter came. Olivia had been accepted to Penn State's architecture program with a strong scholarship package and an invitation to a summer design institute. It was not Kingsley. It was not the sweatshirt. It was not the dream Travis had put on display. It was real. That made it better. The Little Lantern Fund paid the deposit directly through the university portal. And Samuel confirmed it. Laura confirmed it. Olivia clicked the final button herself with me sitting beside her, and Margaret's photograph on the desk. No panic, no fake invoice, no hostage deadline. And just a girl choosing a future no one could use against her anymore. The night before Olivia left for Penn State, she came to my house with 2 suitcases, a backpack, and the cardboard library model she had shown me at my birthday dinner. And she said she did not want to pack it in the car where it might get crushed. I knew that was not the real reason she brought it, because that little model had survived the night. Travis tried to turn her dream into an emergency bill. And sometimes people carry proof that they were hopeful before they were hurt. We placed it on Margaret's old desk in the study. The room still smelled faintly of paper lavender, and the lemon furniture polish Margaret used on Sundays. Her red pens were in a mug. Her school bell sat on the shelf. Former students still sent Christmas cards, though half of them now had children of their own. Olivia stood in the doorway for a while. Then she asked if Grandma would be disappointed that she was not going to Kingsley. I almost answered too fast. Then I remembered Margaret's hatred of easy comfort. I told Olivia her grandmother would be disappointed, only if she let a school name become bigger than the work she was meant to do. Olivia smiled a little. Then she said Kingsley felt embarrassing now. I told her embarrassment belonged to the person who lied, not the person whose dream was used. She touched the edge of the model. Then she said she wanted to design places where people felt safe asking for help. And that sentence stayed with me. The next morning, Laura drove. I rode in the passenger seat. Olivia sat in the back, surrounded by bedding, storage bins, sketch tubes, snacks, and every nervous silence a family can fit into one car. And the campus was busy with students, parents, carts, boxes, and goodbye smiles that looked brave from a distance and fragile up close. We moved her into a small dorm room with pale walls and a window facing a tree. Laura made the bed twice because she could not stop fussing. I assembled a rolling cart badly, then fixed it after reading the instructions. Olivia taped a photo of Margaret beside her desk, not the formal funeral photo, a candid one from a school art fair, where Margaret was laughing with her head tilted back. That was the right one. Before we left, I handed Olivia an envelope. Inside was a copy of Margaret's note about the Little Lantern Fund. Give it with joy, but never give it in panic. Olivia read it silently. Then she hugged me so hard my ribs hurt, and she said she wished Grandma could see this. I said I had a feeling she had been watching the whole process and correcting us from somewhere. Olivia laughed through tears. Laura cried openly. I pretended not to, which fooled nobody. On the drive home, Laura and I stopped at a diner off the highway. For the first time in months, she looked tired in an ordinary way instead of a frightened one. She stirred coffee and said she had spent years letting Travis sound certain because certainty felt safer than doubt. I told her certainty is cheap. Truth takes receipts. She laughed, and it sounded like my daughter again. Travis' legal troubles did not vanish. KDM faced consequences. Catherine settled to avoid deeper exposure, and Travis was ordered to repay relatives he had misled and was barred from handling Olivia's education funds or application matters. His business reputation collapsed. The marriage ended slowly, with paperwork, grief, anger, and relief, all taking turns at the table. I did not celebrate that. A family breaking is never music, even when the break is necessary. But I did feel peace each time a boundary held. The Little Lantern Fund remained protected. Samuel continued as legal advisor. Laura became co-contact for educational matters, but no funds could move without verification. Olivia learned to read every email address, and every invoice, every deadline, every fine print line. It was a hard lesson, but not a wasted one. Margaret used to say wisdom should not have to hurt children to reach them. I agree. But when hurt comes anyway, wisdom must make sure it was not for nothing. That fall, Olivia sent me photographs from her first design studio. Cardboard models, sketches, coffee cups, and a table full of exhausted students building impossible things from foam board and hope. One photo showed her standing beside a model of a small community library with a courtyard in the center. On the back of the printed copy she mailed me, she wrote for Grandma, for Grandpa, for safe places. I placed it on the mantel right beside Margaret's photograph. The house changed after Olivia left. It became quiet again, but not empty in the same way. Some quiet is abandonment. Some quiet is rest. I began learning the difference. Laura came every Sunday for dinner. Sometimes Olivia video called from school and showed us drawings. Sometimes Patricia came and brought too much food. Frank repaired things that did not need repairing. Samuel stopped by once with updated documents and stayed for pie. Life did not return to what it had been before Margaret died. It could not, but it began forming something livable around the space she left. On my next birthday, I did not let anyone make a speech. That was my only rule. We had cake at the kitchen table. Laura lit the candles. Olivia called from campus, laughing because her dorm fire alarm had gone off twice that week, and she now considered herself an expert in bad building design. And Patricia sang too loudly. Frank forgot the second verse, which I am not sure exists anyway. After everyone left, I sat alone with Margaret's note. I read it again under the lamp. Henry, if Olivia ever needs this money, give it with joy, but never give it in panic. Panic is where careless people hide their hands. Pay schools directly. Ask questions. Protect the girl from anyone who uses her dreams to open your wallet. I folded the paper carefully. Then I looked at the photograph of Margaret on the mantel. Her eyes had always made me feel both known and corrected. I told her Olivia was safe. I told her Laura was healing. I told her the fund had done what she built it to do. I told her I had almost been rushed, but I had heard her. The house was still outside. Rain moved softly across the porch ferns. The same ferns Margaret used to water every morning, even when the forecast promised rain, because she said living things deserved personal attention. I thought about Travis' sentence from that birthday dinner. You can either help her future tonight or explain why Grandpa let her dream die. He had been wrong. Helping a dream does not always mean writing a check. Sometimes it means refusing the check until the truth arrives. Sometimes it means calling the admissions office while everyone thinks you are being difficult. Sometimes it means letting a granddaughter cry for one night so she does not spend years paying for someone else's lie. Sometimes love looks like caution. Sometimes protection sounds like no. And sometimes the future is not the school on the sweatshirt, the deadline in the email, or the story a desperate man tells in a crowded dining room. Sometimes the future is a real dorm room, a real deposit, a real scholarship, a photograph on a desk, and a young woman learning to build safe places because she knows what it feels like when family becomes unsafe. Before bed, I turned off the kitchen light and paused by Margaret's chair. I still missed her so badly some nights that breathing felt like work. But that night, the grief sat beside something else. Pride. Not loud pride. Not the kind Travis performed, quiet pride. The kind Margaret spent her life teaching children to earn. My granddaughter's dream was safe. My daughter's trust was healing. The little lantern fund was protected. And Margaret's love had not been into a fake invoice. That was enough.